Well, thanks very much for being patient and listening to all our talks this evening. I hope you've enjoyed them. There's been a nice variety. I've got some questions here written by my team colleague. They're quite businessy.
Okay.
We might be doing some business chat. We'll see how that goes. And can you smell the pizza has arrived?
I can.
So we are the barrier to pizza, but
let's get through this.
We'll plough on. I mean, firstly, I've known you for quite a few years, and love your work, obviously. But for those uninitiated, what's the sort of the origin story of Pixel Toys?
The hero origin story. Okay, well,
the hero. Yeah.
Okay, well, I started in video games in about 2000, and like most people have already spoken, did my time at Codemasters.
Another one.
Yes.
One, yeah. Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to work mainly in the external development team, which worked with third-party studios.
Okay.
So I got to travel around all over Europe, US, dozens of studios, worked on a lot of different projects, and saw a lot of the ways different games were made, how different studios operated, worked with a lot of teams. So I kind of already had quite a big interest in the way that studios could work.
Sorry, it's a bit quiet. Sorry. Project.
So okay, so I had quite a big interest in the way that studios could work. So Alex and I, the other half of Pixel Toys,
yeah.
Who
someone said the better half.
Well, he found out that he wasn't going to be the hero.
Oh.
He was so seething that he actually has to come tonight. That's obviously not true. We both worked in console PC game development for like over a decade, and like mobile development hadn't really been something that had been that interesting to us. But I think like in 2007 you've got the launch of the iPhone, and then by 2011 you've got games like Infinity War coming out, and EA showing Real Racing 3, and suddenly it's like, okay, it's not just flight control and cut the rope anymore. I think that was suddenly when making games to mobile felt like it was something that we could bring our experience of making console PC games to that platform. And something also really interesting about the idea of making a game that hundreds of millions of people could potentially play. You talk about making games for maybe millions of people if you're really successful on a console, but then doing it that way, felt like this is a really exciting opportunity to do something. There's a paradigm shift happening in video games, and it'd be great to start a company working on mobile.
Seems like a big leap to go from one to the other. Was that quite a daunting step to take?
But I think it was because of that change in the way that we could use the skills that we developed from developing for PC and console for so long, and that was the ability to make games on mobile. But obviously, the step from working in a big organisation to just like two guys, using all their savings, sitting in a room trying to figure out how we could build the company. That was a big step, but a really exciting one.
A nerve-wracking step as well when you've got your own capital to put in and the threats that presents. I'm just quite interested to hear. So, in 2014, Gunfinger came out.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in how you've seen mobile evolve from then. So you talked about the transition from console to mobile and the opportunities. But 2014 is still a long time ago.
Yeah.
So mobile today, how's that evolution continued, or has it gone in different directions? What have you seen? What do we need to know about the mobile market in that transition period?
Well, I think we started development of Gunfinger, I think, like early 2013, so over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the market, I think, was about 30% of the market was mobile back then. Mm-hmm. Now it's like 50%, and obviously the mobile sector has grown massively. And you've got a huge number of big companies coming in, you've got huge amounts of investment. The quality of the games, rather than being built over a few months, they're built over potentially years. So the audience expectations are also much higher. So I think the obvious answer is it's a lot harder now to be successful, but it's not impossible.
And so you say it's harder. Is it because of the amount of competition, the investment going in from companies, the fact that people are taking it so seriously now? That's the challenge. And if that is the case, how do you differentiate yourself from those companies then?
I think, you have to have a product that really is going to engage. And I think in order to do that, you have to have a deep understanding of how players play with mobile games, which is different. You know, the way that they interact with games, the way that the times of day they use them, the frequency that they use them. There's a whole science around understanding that stuff. I think you really need to really understand it in order to be successful. And it's taken us a long time really to get there. Gunfinger was successful for us in terms of, you know, we were a small company, like 10, 15 people, but in order to really get it and really be successful, it's like a step change beyond that.
It's interesting, we talked here a little bit, or you've talked about the sort of the console world and the mobile world. And the mobile world is all about understanding your consumers and their habits and their activities, what's going to excite them and what's not. In the console world, it seemed to be just promote the hell out of it, and that would be the way you generate sales. Is that am I oversimplifying it, or is there a certain element of that, do you think?
I think there's a idea of building purchase intent and promoting something, making it feel exciting, and then people potentially go out and spend a significant amount of money on buying it because they already probably know a lot about it. And they're already quite engaged. Obviously, with mobile games, that isn't always the case. You have to acquire audience through different routes.
We're starting to see the return of the £70 console game coming up soon. That's a hell of a lot of marketing to justify that.
It is. I actually had a clear out of my old game collection, and I threw away, you know, PS2, PS3, PS4.
I've not heard of
Xbox
eBay.
360 games. No, I have heard of eBay, but it was quite painful, even selling on eBay, to think about how much these games cost and how much they're worth now.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah, they weren't cheap in the day. So there's been quite a lot of sort of anti-talk about getting back to £70. But you're right, console games were £45, £50. PlayStation 2 times, weren't they? So yeah, tough. Well, we'll probably return to mobile a little bit later because I'm interested in where you think mobile could be going in the future. You know, we'll talk about the growth, but we're going to have a chat about VR. Now, I know very little about VR, so you'll have to educate me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
What I want to know is...
Well, I don't know how to charge for a headset. If you talk
Is
about
that an
a
Oliver?
quick game, then I'm
What is
buying you a
interrupter?
headset.
Lovely, thank you. I'm interested in hearing about the sort of development process behind making VR content. So, you know, you're making mobile games and then you're going to do some VR. I mean, it seems like an enormous step change from one to the other.
Well, back when Pixel Toy first started doing VR games, we basically did mobile VR. So this is when, I don't know if you remember, 2015, 16, but you used to put a Samsung phone into a piece of plastic and you put it on your head, and that would be your VR experience, which wasn't particularly awesome, but it kind of worked. Because we were kind of specialising in that initial part of VR, we were able to transfer a lot of our kind of pipeline tools, sort of techniques, building games into mobile VR. And obviously then beyond that, we kind of evolved to standalone things like the Quest, but again, very similar pipeline, very similar technologies. But there's obviously a lot of differences as well in terms of the way that you work as a team, and there's a whole different kind of methodology around understanding the player can look anywhere, anytime. Making sure they don't feel sick, making sure that, you know, really understanding that kind of the space is different. So the design principles are very different, but the kind of production development is the same. And you can't. One of the things you can't do, for example, is do a build review and everyone look at the screen and go, okay, yeah, that's the thing we need to work on, because basically you've got one guy going, what are you looking at? What can you see? Describe it to us. So there's differences in the way that you have to work.
That sounds chaotic, actually. I like the sound of that. That sounds pretty good. But I mean, VR's obviously moved quite a lot, and particularly, I mean, there are companies bringing out, who shall remain nameless, bringing out new headsets literally every 12 months, which you wouldn't see in other. You might see it in mobile, I suppose, but perhaps in years gone by, that, you know, there's a life cycle for some of these devices. That doesn't seem to be the case with VR. But let's say there are studios here thinking about, you know, VR perhaps went away a little bit a few years ago and has come back pretty strongly. Would you advocate studios to look at VR as a viable platform?
I think if you're looking to get into it, I think you really have to be commercially thinking about it. You've got to be realistic about the number of devices, about whether what you manage your expectations or how big the audience is going to be, and think about what you're going to spend on your project, so that you can be successful. Because obviously there's different numbers of these different headsets from different manufacturers out there. I think also if you're a console or a mobile developer and you're thinking about doing VR, the important thing to think about is, other people on your team, do they get motion sick easily? Because if they suffer from, like, you've got key people that like vomit as soon as they put a headset on, then it's going to be difficult for them to make games together. So there are things like that to consider for sure.
I've not heard of a story of a studio that couldn't finish a game because everyone was getting too sick playing it. And does it happen, but they just don't want to report it?
I think there's definitely people that suffer from motion sickness, and it can be a problem. But I think it's an exciting space, and obviously there's recent developments are happening, and the mixed reality is changing things again. So there's definitely some exciting opportunities.
So what is the exciting things about VR? You talk about there definitely are exciting things. Where do you think we're going in VR?
Well, there definitely seems to be this push towards mixed reality. All the kind of major headsets manufacturers are moving in that direction, and showcasing new products and new devices that can support it. And then obviously there was the Apple Vision Pro, which is really trying to take that and make that the main focus of what the headset can do.
We've got another sort of businessy conversation here about sort of office space, which is interesting. Something we haven't touched on tonight, but people have mentioned about being in, changing working practices during lockdown and what have you. It says here that on your website you've been talking about the early days when you had a tiny desk to this wonderful studio that you have now. What's the value of an office to a studio in today's sort of game development world? Is it becoming? Are we returning to it entirely? And there's a couple of questions there. Sorry.
I think it depends what you mean by returning to it entirely. I don't think that we're going to return necessarily, not Pixel Toys anyway, return to 5 days a week, everyone in the office. But I think we believe that it's important that people spend some time physically together. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that is. Like obviously effective communication, team cohesion, team dynamic. I could go on, but I think there's all those arguments. But obviously there's also the arguments that being able to spend some time working remotely or working from home is beneficial for well-being as well. So that's why I think hybrid working is the best solution for us. But you can't do the team stuff, you can't do the team events, you can't get to know people or work really effectively with them unless you're physically together. It's something that I believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ukie is we have an office, but there's normally 2 or 3 people out of 15 or 16 in it every day. And most of our meetups are for social reasons rather than for work reasons. We feel like we can work okay remotely, but the social thing is incredibly important. And the welfare. We heard a lot about the way that Maverick are growing and the positioning that they're doing. What about welfare of staff? I mean, it must be a huge challenge. Motivating staff, looking after them, accommodating all of their needs. How do you go around that? What's the process for doing that?
Well, we take time to listen to what people are saying. We run regular team health surveys, and we take that input back, and we spend a lot of time analysing it. We do a lot of other things across a kind of broad spectrum. We have 5 mental health first aiders.
Right.
We're part of the Wellbeing in the Workplace Charter. We're in the process of joining up with a charity that focuses on mental health, which we're going to announce soon as well. We run quarterly wellness days where we do like healthy snacks and food, and provide a relaxing
Sorry,
massage.
we brought pizza tonight then.
Well, we also do treats as well.
Good.
So obviously wellbeing is important. We obviously last year there was issues with inflation, so we gave everyone a 10% pay rise in addition to their normal raises, which I don't know if it helped well-being, but I don't think it hurt well-being either. So.
That's interesting. I mean, Ukie's often talking to studios about the sort of the benefits package that they offer individuals. Going a little bit off this, sorry about that. don't want to put you on the spot too much about it, but it's really interesting the different approaches that companies take. You know, for a while there was a lot of focus on flexible working, more focus on that sort of mental and physical well-being. You know, some people lost some of their fitness during lockdown for not getting out very much, shall we say, and the focus seems to be returning a little bit cost of living is driving back towards salary. It's quite a difficult balance to get right, and I'd be interested to hear where you think we could be going in the future. You know, is there extreme pressures on finding talent and trying to get the right package for those individuals when they join? Is that increasing all the time?
I wouldn't say extreme pressure. I mean, we're in a position where we're able to, pay market rates and pay people what they're worth. I think, and that's fair. And obviously, in times of increased inflation, which might match that, with the salary increases that people receive year on year. So I think the jobs market generally, is in this sector is challenging, but that also means that we look. Globally since Brexit, where we would obviously look mainly in Europe, because obviously there's a freedom of work before Brexit. Now, obviously, the world's our oyster because we look everywhere. So, and that means that we're able to pull people in potentially from around the world.
It's been a fascinating development, hasn't it? That studios, when everyone was working remotely, it didn't matter where they were in the world to work. As we transition a little bit back into, and say that very well, as we transition back into offices, there's an interesting challenge of having workers overseas, still making them feel part of the whole process. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. More locally, what's it like being in Leamington Spa at the moment? What's it like as
today it's really nice.
Yeah, all right, but it's because I've got my shorts on. That's making a difference.
Yeah.
Now, in general, what's it feel like? What's the vibrancy like in the air at the moment?
I think. The vibrancy in the air. I think, generally the summer always helps, but I think there's always a great place to be a game developer at Leamington Spa. There's so many. There's so many companies here, and so there's such a community of game developers, and there's a real boost in terms of being able to potentially support each other. We're working with a number of local companies. We've provided services for companies in the past. Companies have provided services for us. I think that there's always a really good community spirit in the game development scene here. So I don't think that's really changed. If anything, as more companies have come here, it's grown. So I think I'm really proud that we're a part of that and part of that history.
It's important, isn't it? I think this area, greater than other regions, has realised that you're not. And I was talking to some of your team about it earlier. You're not competing with the people in the same street, town. You're competing globally. So there's no harm in working and engaging and partnering with local companies. You all benefit from it. And this area has always been pretty good at doing that. Maybe because most of you have worked together in the past. There's a certain connection, isn't there?
There is a C-word connection, yeah. But I think we've all, all the people that spoke tonight, I think have worked. I've certainly worked with all of them in different capacities. And I think because so the people that have been in the industry long enough, because most of the companies here have been started by people that are local or have worked in local development, then there is a pre-existing relationship there. I think, and that really adds to the kind of like collaboration aspect to it, which is good.
Before I ask you about what's next for Pixel Toys, and you reveal everything, the entire strategy for everyone, last time I saw you, number 10 Downing Street.
Yeah, that was nice.
Did you enjoy that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. What was it like being behind that bulletproof door? Did it feel good?
It was an interesting experience. I mean, the staircase with all the pictures of prime ministers. I know Liz Truss wasn't on there.
No.
It was good. It was interesting.
A gallery of rogues, some people call it, with all the prime minister mugshots and photos. But what do you? It's sort of representative of government taking a bit more interest in games. And I know I've been banging on about it for years about how they should support the industry more, and they're not finally listening to me, they're just finally listening. But what do you feel about that potential in terms of a relationship with... No, that's the way it goes. Do you have a view on that in terms of sort of the opportunities with government?
So there's definitely, often been local government initiatives that the local council have done to support industry. I mean, it's such a big industry here; it's difficult to ignore.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, it's great to get support from government in a number of different areas, whether that's things like really against tax relief, or it's educational programs. Those things are really important, especially for boosting things like the diversity and inclusivity.
Yes.
And that people have talked about. So.
And they committed more funds to UK Games Fund this week as well, which was good. And the sector vision was published. I'd recommend you go and have a look at the creative industry sector vision. It talks about where government would like to support the creative industries, and a lot of the things in there are things that we can help them with as an industry. So I just want to say thank you for coming to that event. Everyone added something that came along to it, meeting the MPs and talking to them. Let's all do that work together.
Yeah,
so.
it was a pretty cool experience.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us.
I wasn't looking for a thanks, I was just
That's always good.
Yeah. So roadmap then, where are you going? What's you're a hero, the hobcrawl hero. What are you going to tell us?
What can I tell you? That's a good question. I think, what we're trying to do as a company, we're always trying to improve ourselves for our team members, for our partners. We continually work towards that. In terms of what we're working on, well, no, I can't tell you about that, I'm afraid. But I think we've been working. The whole team at Pixel Toys is dedicated to one major project that we've been working on for a number of years, and it's really building to something that is going to be quite exciting when it's released. So watch this space.
And what's the timescale for that? When do we start to hear about it so we can all keep an eye out for it?
It's somewhere between months, decades. Don't worry, I'll let you know.
Oh, I'm not going to push you on it, that's fine. I know when the answer's not coming. But number one...
I'm going to be the person that doesn't break any ideas.
Is that... Oh no, I wouldn't want you to do that. But later on you can show me around and I'll snoop around and see if I can see anything of interest and report back.
Maybe.
I love doing that. I've been thrown out of so many offices over the years.
I was going to show you around, but now...
Ah, that's it, the truth comes out. Thank you very much for joining me. Put your hands together for...